Here at What Culture, we are often criticised for being overly smarky, hypercritical, and even sometimes just plain nasty. But don't worry, because I, the resident youthful spark at What Culture Towers, am here to provide a positive dose of wrestling news and, you know, just generally have a brighter outlook on the sort of wrestling community as a whole. So let's get right into it. I'm Jack from WhatCulture.com, and this is the Fast Count. First, let's start off with all of this week's WWE news, and let's get straight into it with news of The Undertaker's role in WrestleMania 33. Now, according to Dave Meltzer, the original plan was for John Cena and Undertaker to clash at WrestleMania in what would have unquestionably been a monumental match, but for whatever reason, perhaps because he hates Adam Blampier, it's not up to me to say, but it's definitely because for whatever reason Vince has gone, no, damn it, and then he sort of reversed the decision. They're not going with that anymore. Apparently Undertaker will face someone on the Raw roster instead. This is all according to Dave Meltzer and the Wrestling Observer newsletter. I, for one, am very, very disappointed. I was looking forward to Cena versus Undertaker, and I hope these results are false, but whether they are or not, it's hard to tell. Meltzer's usually fairly accurate with this sort of thing. It does bring into question the result of the Royal Rumble. I had Undertaker pegged to win. It was my favourite in the match. Who's going to win now? We'll take a look at that a bit later on in the show, but for now, it looks as though Cena versus Undertaker is off the card. Secondly, we have a new United States champion, and if you watch Monday Night Raw, you will know already that it is... Excuse me. Motherfucker. It's Chris Jericho. Oh, a bit heavy on my stomach, that sandwich. Chris Jericho is the new United States champion, and it's well deserved actually, because Jericho's been one of the highlights of the main event scene on Monday Night Raw. He's sort of arguably overshadowed Kevin Owens' Universal title reign, but in other respects he's kind of enhanced it and prevented Owens from becoming too stale. I'm not saying that Owens is a stale performer, but the way he's been booked has been quite sort of uninspiring. But Jericho's been there to freshen things up, and he's been rewarded with the US Championship, the one major belt in WWE that had eluded him for the rest of his career. So well done, Jericho. It's well deserved, and hopefully he doesn't immediately lose that back to Roman Reigns. I don't think he will. I think Roman might be getting pushed into the main event title scene again with a win at the Royal Rumble. I don't know why I slowed right down at the end there, but I think that's what will happen. And finally, this weekend sees the highly anticipated WWE UK tournament featuring such familiar names if you're a fan of WCPW as former WCPW champion Joseph Connors, hashtag I am a Joseph Connors guy. I want him to win, but the guy that I think will win is Pete Dunne, the current Progress champion and one of the most impressive youngsters coming up through the UK scene currently. I think he might be younger than me, which makes no sense because he's like much bulkier and just better at life. And he's a vegan as well, but he's never mentioned that. He's not one of them vegans. I just found that out when I was going through his possessions. And now it's time for all the news from elsewhere in the madcap world. That's a new one, the madcap world of Proington Wrestling. First of all, some NXT news, because when I don't have enough independent news, I sometimes sneak a bit of NXT in there. Have you noticed that? It's a bit shifty. I am sneaky like Fox, because sometimes you can have it in the WWE section, sometimes I pretend that NXT is a separate entity. It's up to me. This is my show. Who gives a shit? Two further matches have been confirmed for NXT TakeOver San Antonio during Royal Rumble weekend, and they are the Authors of Pain versus DIY for the tag titles, and Asuka versus Billie Kay, Peyton Royce and Nikki Cross in a four-way match for the women's title. Lucha Underground has ended its mid-season break, and predictably things ended with a bit of a bang during a death match between Matanza Cueto and Dragon Azteca Jr. They fought up to the top of the bleachers, and then Matanza chokeslammed Dragon Azteca through the gap between the wall and the bleachers. It looked terrifying, and then smoke came out like what happened to Edge that time when Undertaker got a hold of him. It wasn't nice. Then Rey Mysterio came out to, I say to make the save. He didn't really make the save. Dragon Azteca was already presumably dead. Mysterio ran out and beat up Matanza a little bit, and then he backdropped him into like the storage room, and he went through the room. It was brutal. And then Dario Cueto, the brother of Matanza, came out and spiced dummy out and said, look, everyone go away. I'm closing down the temple. So who knows what state the promotion will be in when we return, but it does return to our screens, or your screens if you're North American, in the summer of 2017. This year. This year. And finally, a bit of branding news, which is almost as boring legal news, but it's boring branding news. I haven't got a klaxon for this one yet, so I'll just make up a jingle. Branding news, here it comes. Branding news, all the fun. Hashtag rebrand. TNA have rebranded themselves as Impact Wrestling. I'm just wilting in front of camera today. And they've changed their Twitter, they've changed their social media to Impact Wrestling. Stop laughing at me, Phil. And it's all looking slightly more progressive for them. You might not like the logo, I'll throw it up there so you can have a look yourself and judge. But in a bit of bad news for TNA, the Fight Network in Canada aired the wrong episode of Impact before rectifying it later on. What's that all about? That's my Canadian accent, and I think you'll find it was flawless. 10 out of 10. And finally, it's time for all of this week's delicious takeaways, but I've only got one takeaway this week, and to be honest, I'm doing it quite early, just in case it becomes abundantly more clear in the next few weeks who is going to win the Royal Rumble. But for now, there are a whole host of potential winners. I'm going to name my Power 5. If you can just put up Jack's Power 5 now, that would be lovely. Thank you. And then bring them up as I'm really putting you to work this afternoon, Phil, I'm sorry. But we've got Undertaker, there's one, there he is. I hope you've not put him on that side, you're a dick if you have. Braun Strowman, Jericho, Goldberg, and who was my fifth? Give me a second. And Finn Balor, the man who I think will potentially win if he comes back from injury. It's not the first time we've seen a superstar come back a little bit early. Cena did it in 2008, Edge did it in 2010. I think Finn Balor could be the one to do it in 2016, thereby securing himself a title match with Roman Reigns if he beats Kevin Owens. That's what I think will happen towards WrestleMania. A lot of people think that Braun Strowman will win, and then he'll get a very uninspiring match with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, which you'll probably see Reigns beat another big guy. And I hope it's Finn Balor. He's got unfinished business after decimating Reigns during his debut on Monday Night Raw. I don't think it'll be the Undertaker anymore. Now that talk of him versus Cena is off the table. So yeah, Balor's my new pick, and I'm going to change my pick every week until right up to the Rumble, and hopefully I'm right. But who do you think? Let me know in the comments below. So that's all for this week on the Fast Count. I've been Jack from WhatCulture.com, and thank you once again for watching. You can follow me on Twitter at Jack_the_jobber. You can follow my lovely editor at ChambersPhilip on Twitter as well. And there's not much more to say. See you soon.